Okay, so for my program that was supposed to benefit the world, I wanted to prove that you could use Visual Basic as an input for C++. Because C++ programs are just like black screens with text on them, and they're not very user friendly per se.
Okay.
So with
So this is an attempt to run C++ programs using a GUI interface that is done in Visual Basic.
yeah, it's pretty simple just because it's a proof of concept. What the program actually does is that you enter in the input from Visual Basic, and then it just runs the palindrome code from the last project, which I recycled for this.
Okay, now here's my question. Remember what the basis for doing this project was? An IT project that had some type of social significance.
Okay.
So how do you tie what you did here with its, social significance?
Okay, say you work in an IT company you work in IT department for any company, and you have this program that people in the company need to use, but they're not very familiar with the black screen and the white text.
Okay.
So you use Visual Basic to make like an easier interface to use per se,
Okay.
and then have it output from Visual Basic to C++, and then have C++ do run the functions and stuff. And from there, it'll output what the finished product back to Visual Basic so that it can be seen by the people who are using it.
Okay, so I can actually see this, and folks, this actually has some very useful application. I'll give you a perfect example here at Gulliver. Every now and then, there's a Windows-based application that teachers will need, but that application will have some type of error that will occur during the course of the year. Well, obviously the IT department will, on their end, try to resolve that issue. And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll send to the teacher's application launcher a batch file that they run, that the teachers could run, and then by running the batch file and restarting the computer, it should resolve the issue. Now that batch file is probably done in C++, and it's done, like you said, Alan, in like in a console window.
Yeah.
It's not very user friendly. But by interfacing it with a GUI like a VB, it makes for the ability for the teacher to resolve the issue locally by just double clicking on the icon and having the program run in the background. So it does have some significance here at school, and I can picture this having significance in other companies and so forth, right?
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, I'm going to start running the program and explain the code from both Visual Basic and C++ afterward.
Okay.
Okay, as you can see, by launching the C++ program, the C++ program actually launches the Visual Basic program, so they don't have to launch, they only have to click one thing. So, this is a palindrome, so say I type a D more L, and it'll turn into a palindrome.
What's up, Y?
That's a side effect of using text files as a channel. This is because apparently when you have like a null value or nothing in a text file, it still gives out an output, and apparently it gives out this, which is like the last character in the ASCII table. I'm not sure why it does that.
Okay, now that really is not a palindrome. That's basically just whatever text you inputted reversed.
Yeah, it just reverses it actually.
Oh, okay.
Kayak.
Okay.
Type in kayak.
Kayak. How do you There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in a way, I guess in a way you could check if it's a palindrome because.
Well, you could. All you have to do is like add the code, and it'll.
Right. Well, now, for example, you type something, and if you get back exactly what you typed, then you can tell right away it's a palindrome.
Or there's an error.
Yeah.
All right. Exactly. Okay. So what about like Faraz said, Alan, the side effect of working with strings and all that? Is there any way of getting rid of that Y with the two dots?
Actually, on the C++ side, there are no strings involved. I did it all with character arrays.
Oh, okay. Oh, great. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. An excellent way, folks, of trying to resolve any issues when you're working with two languages and the languages don't understand strings, when you're trying to communicate with each other, you could set each string into convert each string into its character array equivalent, right?
Yeah. On Visual Basic, however, it does use strings because strings are like a lot easier to use in Visual Basic than they are in C++. I don't know why.
Okay. Okay, so go ahead and minimize this and explain briefly the code. What's occurring in that console window there?
This console window theoretically shouldn't need to say anything. The only reason it says anything is because I had to troubleshoot it.
Okay.
And if it didn't give out any output, I wouldn't know what was going on.
Okay.
So I'm gonna just explain what it does.
Yeah, I'm curious to know what is the code, Alan, that will take whatever you input in VB and process it in C++ and then bring it back to the form in VB.
Okay, this is a main. You may notice true start that does nothing. That's just like there's a bunch of code I have here left over from when I was experimenting with the stuff.
Okay.
This is shell execute, which is the function or the statement that the program is actually named after. Shell execute, what it does is that it runs a program or activates it, which is how it runs Visual Basic. That's the only time with the program where the shell execute is used.
Okay. So what does that line do specifically?
Shell execute?
Yeah.
This like goes into a specific folder and then finds a specific program or document, then it just opens it.
Oh, okay. So it goes to the directory that you set before the name of the application. It finds the executable and then it launches it.
Yeah, you have to be like really specific when you're like putting in the path.
Okay.
In Visual Basic, you have to think this thing called app.path, which is like it says the path of the program, so wherever it is will work.
Okay. Now, does anybody know why he's got to use 2 double backslashes instead of 1?
Because that's what the computer has the directory.
Well, remember whenever you were doing something in C++, inside of a string, you would use, if you wanted to tab over, you would do \t, right? Or if you wanted the computer to beep, you would do backslash.
Because 2 equals 1.
Right, you need 2 backslashes inside of a string in order for C++ to interpret that as 1 backslash. Because the first backslash is actually a command. The second backslash is the actual key in your keyboard. Yeah, very good. Okay, go ahead, Alan.
Okay, after that it runs, it does it opens the first text file, which is waste.txt.
Okay.
I opened the text files with ifstream and ofstream. Ifstream is for input from the text file, and ofstream is for output.
Output to the text
Yeah,
file.
I think their ofstream was for both, but I can't remember whether I used that one or not.
Okay.
What it does is just it takes input from what is supposedly an empty text file. So because the empty text file gives out like a character value, which I couldn't figure out how to acquire like in C++ itself.
Right.
So I needed something to compare it with. I needed something to compare the normally empty text file with, so that C++ wouldn't input something multiple times or write over the input. I don't think I actually got it to work, so I just like fixed that on the Visual Basic end.
Okay.
So what's this? Okay, this is Open Channel, which runs like the actual input and output thing. And Open Channel is up here. This is like the second if stream. This opens control.txt, which is where Visual Basic outputs to and where this inputs from.
Okay.
As you can see, I have to run a while loop to get each character from the thing one at a time.
Okay.
What .get does is, as far as I can see, it takes a character from a text file, removes it from there, and puts it and uses it as an input here.
Oh, great. Okay.
So
now what is the significance of the number 230 in that conditional statement?
if int line is less than 230, Because once you get it to higher numbers in the ASCII table, then you start getting like weird symbols like the Y with the two dots.
Oh, right.
This
Or
was
a
an-
happy face or something
Yeah.
like that.
This was an attempt to stop the Y with two dots from coming out.
Ah,
So yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Line 2, yeah, this is channel. Does X++ and then it just goes from the zero to the until whenever the file stops being good.
Now,
As
out
far
of,
as-
out of curiosity, why did you choose a while statement as opposed to a for loop?
I always do while loops. That's why.
You do while loops?
I only do while loops. I don't quite remember how for loops work. So
Okay. Now, did you discover any problems implementing a while loop?
no, it actually worked out surprisingly well. I did in-channel.good. I still don't quite understand what it looks, but by what I can see, apparently when you use get to get all the characters out of a text file, it stops being good, is what I believe.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's a good way of, no
So,
pun intended, right? Good way.
that's just by accident. That just happened by accident that I kind of figured that out.
Okay.
Here is if minus yada.
That's one of the
Yeah.
nice things about coding, by the way. Remember, folks, I see this too often. Students try to get the code to work perfectly the first time, and then if it doesn't run perfectly the first time, they have a tendency to like quit. Well, the only way you're going to learn the nuances of programming is through this process of getting some errors, debugging, putting in extra lines of code, like what Alan did, using a Boolean. That Boolean at one point served no purpose, but he kept it in there just in case he needed it later. This constant trial and error is actually good, and it actually will create an acumen of programming that otherwise would not develop, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so this also serves no purpose. This is just for troubleshooting. I wanted to see whether or not like the thing I did with waste.txt and for the comparison was working. I'm not sure if I don't think it actually worked. So this makes true start equal true. True start used to be in here. So true start, what it used to do was that it was here, and then if it was like false, I believe. Yeah, if it was false, it would only like do this like once. That was my attempt to get it to get only the text from the Visual Basic that I wanted, and not just any extra stuff.
Right.
That's what I was originally going to stop, but I found out that wasn't working either. So this worked out better.
Okay. So overall, Alan,
Yeah.
you feel like you accomplished what you set out
Yeah.
to accomplish, which is to try to take information from a console window and try to make it visible within a form in a VB application,
Yeah.
which is a lot more user friendly, and that's for a lot of companies. They need their employees to do something. They need for them to do it very efficiently. Of course, doing something in a console window in C++ is a lot more efficient than having an interface with a VB application,
Yeah.
but it's not as user friendly. So a lot of companies are actually doing this. They're working on things in the background and then sending it, deploying it to people that are actually working with the same program, but in a more GUI environment, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things about this program is that it does the input and output thing like once every second. Because there's no way that I know of for Visual Basic to tell C++, hey, you need to check the file right now. There's a new input.
Right.
So it's constantly checking it and erasing what's in the file. It takes what's in the file, then erases the file just so that it doesn't overlap.
Right. Great.
But actually, yeah. Actually, now that I think of it, I don't know if I actually needed to erase the files, considering I'm using .get. I'll have to look into that later.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
interesting if you could tweak that part of your code
Yeah.
and then run it and see if you get the same results, right?
And here is this is the output stream. It outputs to wait. Oh no, wait, no. This is where this one clears control.txt in case there's anything that was missed in there. So that It doesn't get added to like a later input.
And then that part right there is outputs it.
Yeah, this is the real output one. This outputs to VV input.txt. What it does is, yeah, this is like the same thing for that Visual Basic does to C++, except that now it's backwards.
Oh, okay.
This is where Visual Basic gets the input, and this is a sleep statement. This makes it wait every second before doing the entire input and output process again.
Right.
If you get rid of that.
Yeah. Also,
Okay, good question. What question from the audience here? What happens if you get rid of that one line? What would happen?
if I remember correctly, if you get rid of it, it'll just run really fast and eventually crash the program. I can show you right now.
I actually witnessed that happen. It was horrible.
In this case, it doesn't actually even run. In this case, if you get rid of sleep, then the program doesn't run for an error that I don't understand.
All right, compile it again.
Is the W drive,
Yeah, it might be.
This is the thing.
Well, okay, that computer is actually connected, Alan, not hardwired.
Yeah.
It's actually connected wirelessly, so you may lose some things every now and then.
Yeah.
You may lose some folders on the network.
That's just apstring.h, so I'm not sure if I actually needed that to run the program.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
apstring.h is also unnecessary considering in the end I didn't really use
And
strings.
what's more useful than apstring.h?
string that H?
String.h or apstring.cpp?
What's the difference?
Well, apstring.h refers, if I'm not mistaken, to some methods that are not included
Oh,
in it.
there we go.
apstring.cpp does resolve it.
There we go.
Resolve that.
There we go.
That's what happens. You see it's running a lot faster than it was before.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah,
even see
it,
the
run, it
output,
runs.
that's how
It,
fast.
it runs so fast that Visual Basic can't even get the
Process
input.
it, yeah.
It can't even get the input in time before it's erased.
Okay, good.
Now I wanted me to explain the Visual Basic code now.
Yeah, let's pause the presentation
Ow.
so that I can.
Alt P.
Alt P.
Yeah, Alt P, so that I could